Hey everybody, welcome to the Lionheart Podcast. We are here at the Thomas Table Talk of the week and we're excited to greet you. My name is Richard Thomas.
And I'm Tiffany Thomas.
And we couldn't be more thrilled that you're with us today. The state of the world that we're living in right now is both an exciting place and a place still full of a ton of chaos. We turn on the television and we feel it, we see it, it echoes in our lives, and we need to see change. Now we're excited about the direction that we're heading.
Definitely.
We're excited about the things that have transpired. But there still is a ton of evidence that America still has a long ways to go.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And this episode is going to be about the transition from hate to love.
Yeah.
Now, we got to be passionate. We got to be excited. Mm-hmm. We got to be thrilled about the things that have transpired in the direction that we're going. Mm-hmm. But really, as a people, as Americans, as this great republic stands, we have to make a choice of whether we're going to live in the failures of yesterday.
Yeah.
Or whether we're going to begin to grab a sewing stitch and begin to knit back together the wounded areas of our hearts and the wounded areas of our country. Now, I'm not going to pretend to come at you with a extreme liberal perspective of life from a weeping wounded position. That's not really my style. I'd rather dance after a victory than pretend to pick up my enemies. Now, of course, Republicans aren't our enemies, and neither are even really Trump necessarily, or the Trumpsters, as they've kind of been lovingly called. We're all one nation. However, there are some divisions in our country that we need to heal, and we need to be very intentional about that healing.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. I think the biggest thing to really start with is Biden and Harris's acceptance speech. And, let me just say, Saturday was a very emotional day.
Yeah.
And, I spent a lot of Saturday evening in tears. And the truth is, it was just this month's worth of emotion that we've all been through with people fighting each other, Trump supporters versus Republicans versus Democrats, because the truth is, Trump supporters aren't necessarily Republicans. It's kind of, Trump's not really a Republican. So we kind of have a division among Republicans with being Republican Trump supporters and then Democrats. And so there's definitely a huge division. We saw that with the election, how close some of the states were. And obviously Biden had a significant lead in the popular vote. So obviously the majority definitely spoke on that. Sure. But the scary part is it does show how divided this country is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you have a country this divided at the end of an election, we have a long way to go to fix some of the problems and the division and the hurt and the anger that a lot of people feel right now. But, I remember just feeling overwhelmed by all these emotions. And I remember...
They did a great job, didn't they?
Oh my gosh. Their speech for the first time in months was like, I felt hope.
A refreshing touch, right?
Right. And, I'm not going to lie, when Kamala Harris got up there and she started talking, like tears just started flowing. And even now I feel a little emotional about it because this is such a historic moment. Absolutely. And a moment that women have fought for a very, very long time. A moment where women deserve to be here, and a black woman at that, who definitely deserves to be there. And it just was overwhelming because I remember looking at our little baby girl, and tears were running down my face, and I was hugging her, and I thought, finally, somebody I can show her, you know what, you can be this someday.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was a little girl, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but when I was a little girl, I actually said to somebody that I wanted to be the president someday. I was probably 7 or 8 at the time.
That is awesome.
And they just laughed at me and they said, well, women can't be president.
Sure.
And I remember looking at these boys, and I had my hands on my hips. And for those who know me, I kind of do that a lot, And I looked right at them. I said, well, I'm going to be the first woman president.
Come on, girl.
And, that was kind of where, my thought was as a child. I'm like, well, if there's nobody that's there, then I'm going to be that somebody.
Right.
And, so I think kind of over the years, I've always had a little love for politics, in the back of my mind. I always thought, I know I could be a good president. I know I'd be a great president. But to have a vice president-elect that is a beautiful woman of color. It just was a moment of joy.
I know it as I watched it, I don't get emotional a ton, but obviously it felt like the best shit sandwich I've ever eaten in my life.
Gosh.
To hear her talk and to hear Biden follow it up, it's like we returned back in time 4 years. And I don't care what you really thought of Obama. There's a lot that he was able to accomplish, a lot that he was blocked in.
Yeah.
But the man was a gifted orator.
Oh, he was so good.
The man could make you feel like you just got stabbed in your heart.
Right.
But it was going to be okay. We're just going to get a little Band-Aid. We're going to put you back together.
Uh-huh.
And he gave you that sense of hope.
He did.
And then all of a sudden we've had these last 4 years. And I don't know how to describe it politically. I mean, there's been some amazing things that have happened in America. Some great Americans that have risen up. Some people who have made tremendous differences in this very challenging time called COVID, where they've reached out and sacrificed and watched our parties come together in a lot of ways to meet needs and overcome the pain of the hour. But man, you talk about a piece of shit in office. Well, he's given us nothing but shit in our sandwich.
Right.
And I know that's a little vulgar, so I apologize. But just to hear how refreshing the commitments were, and the direction that they wanted to go.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a lot like old school rhetoric, right? I mean, to hear a man get up and say blue states and red states, that sounds like old school politics, right?
Right.
But just that he would go there.
Yeah.
Just that he would go to the fact that we are one nation again. How beautiful is that? Just to hear the concept of there aren't Proud Boys and BLM.
Right.
We're all just Americans.
Right.
And there aren't anti-fascists and white supremacists, whatever extremes you want to take that way.
Yeah.
But let's just all unite together to find a place of healing. It makes your heart fill up with pride to be an American.
Yeah, it definitely does.
You begin to recognize and realize that the world that we live in had begun to look at us in a way that if they can't get their shit together, how can we ever recognize them as the world power they're supposed to be?
Right.
And I felt like for the first time in a long time, I'm still a person of color. I still know there's black people dying in the streets. I still know that there are a ton of issues that we need to face. I know that there are Republican brothers and Trump brothers and sisters who, for whatever reason, went to the extremes of that political party that we need to restore. We need to bring back a bridge of relationship in some senses. And I know that you've watched a couple, at least I have, on TikTok, where there are some Trumpsters watching the dancing in the streets and the conventions, and tears are running down their face, not recognizing how much it would mean. There's also others who haven't given up any hope at all that this man will be in the office in 2020, returning this year in 2020. And if for whatever reason we are able to steal the White House, as they would call it,
he's coming back.
That he'll be back in 2024.
Yeah,
with militias or with his own party or whatever means there are. Right. But just to be in that moment and to feel the energy and to feel the excitement and to know there's a woman vice president.
Right.
Who called Biden on his stuff.
She did. She held him to the fire.
And we can hope for
4
years of that. 4 years of progression. 4 years of moving forward. 4 years of fighting forward and really challenging the norm. I mean, to have a president say for the very first time systemic racism is real in America.
Yeah.
And we need to build from there. We need to fight it.
Yes.
We need to build. And COVID, it is killing Americans. We need to be strong and we need to address it and we need to have hope in moving forward. What a powerful
have a plan. Because that's really the key thing. Trump has never had a plan. And he has always talked very big about everything. And, his family was, it's going to be so good. It's going to be great. I mean, he always says that. It's going to be great. It's going to be the greatest ever, in our history. He always loves to talk like that. But he never has plans.
Right. Or at least plans that he presents to the American people.
Right. He doesn't actually give anybody anything to work with.
Right.
And so to see already, just in the days following the election, Kamala Harris and Biden they're already putting teams together.
Yeah.
They're already, trying to implement groups to be able to start having a definitive plan.
Strategies.
So when January gets here, they can start implementing these changes to start saving the American people and start to rebuild this economy. Now, it is unfortunate, but already the Senate majority, which is Republicans right now, I know Mitch McConnell has already stated very clearly that they are already working on ways to be able to block everything that Biden and Kamala Harris want to implement.
Right.
So they're already starting that right now. Even though many of them won't admit yet that they are the president and vice president-elect, sure, they are already putting strategies in place to be able to block all the things.
And Americans, if nothing else, we need to keep pressure on our politicians to move out of the way and move into the alignment of progress.
And one thing we need to remember as American people is they work for us.
Yeah.
And I think along the lines we have forgotten that, and we have allowed politicians to have power that isn't theirs. They have taken the power from the American people, and they have used that for their own gains. Both sides, Democrat, Republican, it's happened across the board.
Absolutely.
And we need to remember that we have the power. So hold our elected officials to the fire.
Phone calls, emails.
Absolutely. Let them know, hey, I'm not okay with what you're doing.
Right.
And really, every couple years there's always elections of some kind, sure, because they rotate members of the House, Congress, senators. And so we need to remember these things when it comes election time for them every few years and be like, okay, are they listening to the American people?
Right.
Because right now, having the Senate tell us, essentially, we're going to block Biden and Harris as much as possible when stuff that
without even knowing their strategies.
And the stuff that they want to do is going to be really good for this country. Sure. And they're already, we don't care, we're just going to block them.
Right.
So this is already what they have going up against them going into the White House.
Yeah.
And so, I just really encourage all you voters out there, and those who even didn't vote and all those who did, remember, you can control what happens to the government, to our democracy. That is what the beautiful thing about democracy, people. And I think we've forgotten that over the last several years, that we just allowed our government to do what they want to do.
Right. But long live the republic.
Right. So, just an FYI, take back your power, people. Don't let them decide what is best for you. You tell them what is best for you.
Absolutely.
And hold them to the fire.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I think that that's the most exciting thing about where we're at, is there's that sense that we want to hear from the people. We want to honor the people. Now, is it all sunshine and roses? No. Of course not. Or can we believe every word that comes from Biden? He's still a politician, been a politician for 47 years.
Right.
Let's not pretend that overnight the political process changes.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
However, just to hear him stand up and say, I have the black community to thank.
Right.
Specifically black women. How powerful is that? The 93 or 94% of black women really changed his vote.
They did.
And I got to extend that. 96, that's why I had 96 in my mind. 96% of Native Americans voted in the direction of Biden.
They did.
So a huge statement from populations that matter most in swinging this election. And to hear a politician really get up and say, thank you, and I owe you.
To acknowledge that they were really the turning vote in this. Because, so if you look at the previous...
So powerful.
If you look at the previous election in 2016 to this one, we had historical numbers.
Yeah.
Historical. We had, I believe they're still obviously counting votes, so, we don't have the official title number, but I believe there was something like 10 to 15 more million votes.
It's powerful. Thank you, Americans.
Than 2016, which is tremendous. That tells you how powerful the vote is.
Yeah.
And when people actually go out and say, I want to make a choice.
Yeah.
And I want my voice to be heard, you change a whole entire country.
It's really interesting. If you look, there was a speech that Trump gave. And he said, if all the people vote,
Republicans will lose.
Republicans will not only lose this election, but they'll lose all elections.
They can't win.
So I say that both as a majority of my life voting Republicans. Mm-hmm. Republicans, it's time for us to switch up our game.
Yeah.
Or Republicans, it's time for you to switch up your game. Hear from the people. Vote in their interests.
Right.
They have the power. They've begun to speak. And we need to keep pressure on our neighbors in a positive way of excitement and enthusiasm to continue that, to grow our vote from the historic numbers to where this becomes the norm.
Right.
That there is almost this consciousness, that, as there is in other democracies across the world, who dearly love the power of their vote, right?
Yeah.
And respect it. And for so many years, as I've understood it, many Americans have valued their vote, although there's some things with the Electoral College that we'll hopefully get into a little bit in this talk, that have always kind of pressured, particularly people of color, from losing their vote and the value of their vote.
Right.
But let's honor the power of our vote. Let's make our voices heard. Speaking of which, there are some numbers that were a little bit discouraging, right?
Right.
I'm going to talk about first the increase in black votes towards Trump. Now, it's astonishing to me because I've met many African American, people of color, Republicans over the years.
Yeah.
I stood in that camp for a long time.
Right.
My mindset is in that direction. Smaller government. I like a strong military base. I believe that taxes, if you overtax, you're putting too much pressure on your people. I think there's a lot of that plays into the Republican Party for the good. Okay. Capitalism, if it's not turned loose like a pit bull, I think that there are some things that really drive and benefit the people. Okay. But I was shocked to see, I think it was nearly a 4% increase in African American males vote towards Trump. Now, there are some factors in that.
Right.
This is the biggest election of all time. So the numbers in that regard are not tremendously surprising because the overall number is larger. Right. And so it's not like all of a sudden, and I know that there's some speculation in those degrees, it's not as though 50 Cent and Ice Cube's recommendation or these rappers started causing 18-year-old voters, 20-year-old voters to now all of a sudden rush out and go Trump and change their vote. No, it's just the increase in numbers. And there's going to be people that think in those camps. As a matter of fact, I would invite you, if you're a Trumpster, particularly if you're a person of color, if you're multi-generations, I'd be extremely excited to speak to you in this nation. Because I want to know a better perspective of what you're thinking. I know that there are some blind spots that we all develop. Okay, there is no doubt that I developed some blind spots towards Trump's, his policies, what he was trying to accomplish, because all I heard was hate. And once you got into a place where hate was the agenda and hate was the engine, to me, nothing else matters, right? However, there's another number that is a little bit disturbing, is the increase of the white female vote. So yes, the camera is just on you, because I have no way to tip my toe into this. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So 55% of white women voted for Trump.
Just pause.
And I honestly, I don't know how to respond to that, truthfully, because it's shocking to me. It's generally shocking to me how women in general would support a man who's misogynistic, who has, more than 24 cases of sexual inappropriate behavior, including rape cases of minors in there. So to me, and watching how he interacts with women, particularly women of color who are in politics, he's very disrespectful towards them, calls them names. The way he's disrespected multiple women in politics it is astounding to me that women would find that acceptable. Or his reference to the suburban housewife, which to me is highly insulting.
Right.
And, so I feel like, why would they be okay with that? Now, I realize that especially in the evangelical parts of the United States, I would imagine that a good part of that 55% is women who voted with their husbands. A lot of households, the husband, decides who they're voting for, and so a lot of the wives will vote with their husband. So I would imagine a good percentage of that comes from that. And I do know women who have voted for Trump. They're on my Facebook pages, and I see their Women for Trump signs. And I do have to scratch my head on that one, because I can't wrap my brain around that one.
There are some, and I guess I'll tiptoe into this a little bit because let's get off of just the 55% of white women. There are some in the evangelical camp who would vote for him solely because of abortions.
True.
Okay. There's one particular stat that I'd like you to look up in regards to the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Right.
And that is actual numbers and percentages of abortions during the terms of Republicans and Democrats.
Right. So if you happen to catch our Truth and Lies video that we did a couple weeks ago, we did talk about these stats. But just kind of in case you are new to our channel and you're just hearing this for the first time, to give you a little overview on that. It's interesting when you actually look at health records and statistics within that, you will find that abortion in general has gone down every year. Since probably...
I'm thankful for that.
Right. Since, I would say probably the 80s.
Right.
It's continuing. It went from, over 1 million of abortions per year now down to a few 100,000. So it has significantly declined over the years. There's always been a decrease. However, the years that Republicans were in office, abortion rate only went down 2 to 3%. The years that Democrats were in office as president, abortion went down more than 30%.
It's powerful.
So I really like to express that because I do know, as you mentioned, a lot of Christian women will vote Republican just because of that basis, right? Because they're pro-life. They believe that is a good enough reason to vote for somebody who's Republican, and that's all I need to do, right? And
the term pro-life, I would assume that the majority of us are pro-life in the sense of we want life to thrive. We want people to thrive. We want babies to be born and be healthy and strong.
Of course. Yes. And the truth is, there's a big misunderstanding and conception of what pro-choice means.
Right.
And the truth is, if you talk to people who are pro-choice, I would venture to say probably 90% of them are not pro-abortion at all. They are pro-choice because they believe women have the right to decide for themselves.
And what happens to their body.
Right. They don't believe that a government has the right to tell women what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So it's about the women's rights. It's not about the killing of an unborn child. It is about a woman's right. And that's kind of the different perspectives on that.
I wouldn't necessarily agree that 90% of them think that way.
I don't know that for a fact.
But I do know that when you try to put a leash on someone, we're not animals.
Right.
And so you can't tug a chain and expect us to follow willingly and obediently. Women are more than capable of making wise choices. And when they evaluate their life and they evaluate a fetus developing into a baby and that baby becoming a child, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Right.
It's not our responsibility. I'm a Tupac believer, right? In that sense, to demand what they do with their bodies, right? And that's just my perspective. However, the numbers do say when you vote for a Republican, and I know it's going to hurt some feelings, just the stats and the numbers indicate that abortion is not going to decrease at the rate that it does when Democrats are in party.
So 2 to 3% versus over 30%.
Right. And a lot of that has to do with the kissing cousin of birth control, actual health care that goes into it that's made available.
Correct.
All of those different aspects. When you give people choices, they and you give them the opportunity to understand those choices, people act in wisdom. Right.
Especially too if you're giving them preventative choices.
Yeah. Now let's move off of the negative,
'Kay.
right? In the sense of abortions, not for them. Don't want to see it happen. However, it's a part of a woman's right, and so forth. Let's talk about these TikTok videos that are out right now.
I love them.
Biden people dancing in the streets.
Yeah.
Democrats, libertarians. I mean, the whole nine works. Republicans sometimes, in some cases, dancing in the streets over excitement, tears running down their faces. And then you have Trump supporters who are shocked by the enthusiasm, the joy, and tears are running down their faces in these TikTok videos. What do you think's going on there? Is it
Truthfully, it has been a long time in this country since people have been dancing in the streets.
Yeah.
We've seen for almost a year violence and riots and protests and chaos and so much hate. So to see all these people literally dancing for joy in the street is a breath of fresh air. I don't care what your political beliefs are. You can't look at that and not feel something. Right. Some sense of wow, like why does this mean so much to them? And I think the truth is, and I had this discussion with somebody on actually a post I did on my Facebook, and I was expressing my joy at and what it meant to me, and what these last 4 years with Trump has meant to me, to our family, to people that we love and people that we know, and what that has been like for us. And so to have just this weight lifted, to have Biden elected and not that fear of Trump coming back for 4 more years was tremendous. And the problem is there is such a huge disconnect between Trump supporters and everybody else. The reality is Trump supporters have not had to live in what we like to call Trump's America. So we hear that term all the time, Trump's America, and then Trump supporters come back, oh no, this is Biden's America. Well, Biden's not the president. So he hasn't had any influence on what has happened to America in the last 4 years. And so we talk about Trump's America and people get so angry about that, Trump supporters, and they want to blame everybody but Trump. But the truth is
and no one man is responsible for racism. Not one man is responsible for hate.
No, obviously, this goes back, obviously, decades
to Cain and Abel, right?
I mean, this goes back since the beginning of time. So this isn't anything new. I mean, obviously, we've got 400 years worth of racism and discrimination and all that has gone on. So no, Trump didn't start anything new. The difference is his response to people has allowed racists to be comfortable being openly racist and openly hateful to people. And that is what people have had to deal with for the last 4 years is the personal attacks on themselves or family members. And that is what I think some of these Trump supporters who are seeing these videos and kind of feeling a little emotional and not understanding, they have not had to witness that. They have not had to live that. So they do not see Trump's America the way some of us see Trump's America.
And I think that when you see pain expressed, pain oftentimes turns into anger. Right? Where joy turns into love. And so you see people hugging, you see people high-fiving. Still it's social distance, you guys. Let's not have super events, right? But you see that enthusiasm, that Spirit of God, what you would call enthusiasm, welling up within people of hope, of excitement. And I know it's difficult for people who have not seen that. All they've seen is the pain on our faces. They haven't understood the interpretation of who Trump is and how people translate his leadership and what we see, those who are on this side of the fence have seen it mature into, right? But to see that joy, to see that translating into love, we're not a people of hate.
No.
People of color particularly are a people of love. We can turn the blues into a reason to dance. Okay? So yes, we're sad at a lot of times. I like what that one comedian that works with Noah, your favorite guy on late night TV. He said that we created sadness among black people they knew. We created a whole genre of music called the blues, right? So we're a lot of times people are used to seeing that pain on our faces. But to see that joy of a new day of hope and love, it does promote tears even amongst people who don't understand or didn't necessarily agree with it. And I've been accused 1,001 times on my page of trying to be divisive, trying to stir hate. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to stir love. I'm thrilled. I'm excited about the future that we have in reconciling, and most people that are mad at me, honestly, I try to turn around and invite them personally out to a coffee. Personally invite them out to a lunch. Let's hang out. Let's talk. I mean, I'm not and a lot of them will have, guns on their page, and they won't understand my perspective, and they'll think that I'm driving hate. I'm not excited about protests. I'm not excited about looting. I'm not excited about violence, which of all the protests that have happened, only 7% have led to some sort of violence. The FBI has told us that a lot of that violence is the extreme right, which is white supremacist
and that's
groups
actually factual,
and so forth. Fact check away. But I don't love that. I don't embrace that. I'm an old school preacher who preaches grace, and the more sin, the more grace abounds. That's kind of my background. Okay, and I believe that the more pain that people are in, the more love is released, and the more love. But there is a flip side to this conversation, right?
Right.
And that's, to what extent do we go from Trumpsters, as one of my dear friends and one of the guys I really look up to says, well, man, the toothpaste is really out the tube now, right?
There's no going back.
There's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube, right?
No.
So what do we do now with, it's been 3 years and 3/4 of a year of hate and vomiting, disgusting things. The sentiments of a leader that has stirred the American people towards division. Now, what do we do with that, right? Because people have revealed themselves as racists. People have revealed themselves as haters of different. What do we do with that?
It's really difficult because Trump built an entire campaign on the slogan, "Make America Great Again." And really, in my opinion, what he was saying is, let's make America white again. And you see that with how he divided this country so significantly, right? How he embraced essentially police brutality, encouraged police officers to be more aggressive with,
their responses.
Yes, with how they treat people that they pull in custody. So when you see a president,
it's okay to rough them up a little bit,
right? So when you see a president encouraging behavior that is inappropriate and illegal, mind you, and see him support, people like Kyle Rittenhouse and basically making him
an American hero,
a hero. It's just, it's asinine to me. It just truly is. But so how do you come back from that?
Right.
How do you come back from a society that has completely split itself because people who have had this hate secretly in their heart, or these opinions secretly they've kept to himself because it hasn't really been really acceptable to be openly racist in this country for a long time. And so that it's there, but it's not openly in every part of your life, and now it is.
Well, let me give some people a back door, okay? Maybe some of these Trump supporters, and I know it's strange to do this, but I want us to try to seek grace.
Right.
Maybe some of these Trump supporters haven't been racist. It comes off racist, but they have such a sentiment of fear of others.
Right.
That it's matured into a voice of, you're different, stay away.
Yeah. We
think different, you must be the enemy, right? Now there's some of that pace that can't go back in, right? You see
families divided, you see friendships ended. Heck, there's been people who have gotten divorced over this election, so you see families and people in pain right now, and relationships that have been severed.
Right.
So the truth is, how do we fix this? And you see all these posts on Facebook and Instagram about we can have different political views and we can still all be friends.
Sure, that's true.
There's truth to that, but here's the problem with that, okay? And this is, of course, my opinion. I'm not saying this is valid with every situation either, but I cannot be friends with a racist.
Right.
Okay, so your political stance and your support of Trump is so significant that there's no way to build or fix a friendship when you see that in them.
Right.
So the truth is, I can still have respect for you as a person. I can still love you as a brother or sister, but that does not necessarily mean we are going to be friends anymore, because your stance is so strong on a very particular way that I can't condone that way of thinking.
Forgiveness can occur.
Absolutely.
But forgetting isn't necessarily guaranteed.
Absolutely. And nor should you forget, because here's the thing. When people have bad behavior, and something that we have failed to do as Americans is hold Trump accountable for his bad behavior.
100%.
We have failed to make him accountable. We have failed to call him out on it. We have failed to do what we should have done 3.5 years ago and said, wait a minute.
It's unacceptable.
This is unacceptable. This is not how we do things in a democracy. This is not how we do things in America. And this is definitely not how we do things as a Republican.
Right.
And unfortunately, people did not call him out on it, and they grew to accept his behavior so much so that they normalized it.
Well, they said that it's not really his style that matters.
Right.
It's the end result that matters.
Right. And the means justify the ends.
And that's a whole philosophical debate, right? Where a person goes in and they lie on their job application because the job shouldn't require a college degree anyway for me to do it. So I say I got a college degree from Green River, right? But when you do that and philosophically you justify it, well, now maybe you just circumvented a person who really needed that job to take care of their family, to pay their bills, and you're stealing a job that they were in line for because they met all those dots. So philosophically, it's a real challenging topic. Obviously, do the means justify the ends? But when it comes to Trump, character always matters.
Absolutely.
When it comes to the highest position in our or office in our nation, perhaps the most powerful person in our world, right, on our planet, the President of the United States of America, what you say, how you say it, the way you carry yourself, the things you say about people, those things matter.
100%.
And you have to be held accountable for those things.
I mean, because people are duplicating his behavior. People, now, has he said to be openly racist? Has he said to be openly sexist? No, those words have not come out of his mouth. However, he has given the impression of those. He has carried himself in a way that says it without saying it.
And dads get in trouble all the time. The reason we do is because we like to play with our kids.
Right.
And we like to play deviantly with our kids. And we like to rouse them up, right? But what a parent does in part, the child is going to do an excessive recess, right?
Yeah.
And so roughing up your kid means that the older kid's going to rough up the younger kid. And those dominoes just happen to fall.
Yeah.
I have a bad habit of cussing every once in a while. Quite often. And I don't like it. It's not, well, I don't mind it. I'm going to stop lying. I cuss a lot. It doesn't bother me. Okay. However, it does bother me significantly that my 3-year-old knows how to throw down. I mean, he don't just know how to cuss. He knows how to throw down.
Like he knows
appropriate timing. If you're an agent out there and you're looking for a comedian, he has impeccable timing. But what I'm saying that way is I'm taking a very serious topic, and I'm trying to give it a little bit of light. Where in the sense of what we do in part as leaders, our followers multiply and take to the whole different level. Right. And so now, for instance, you have what do they call the yellow boys? The seven.
The Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys. I'm sorry. The Proud Boys now on their Twitter, and I know, fact check it all you want to, but they're saying, or at least a fashion of them, or a dead website is saying that they were told is now the order has been rescinded.
To stand
back and stand by and stand back.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to stand back or stand by me. I'm going to tell you that. Take that shit across the street.
Yeah.
Okay? But I say all that to say what we don't regulate and we don't hold accountable has exploded in America.
Oh, tremendously.
To where now all of a sudden we've got people quickly ripping down their Trump signs out of their yards. We've got people acting as though they didn't say the things they said on social media.
Yep.
We have a whole different extreme of them now going to rallies and saying count the vote, don't count the vote.
Armed too, with weapons.
And so you have these militia type groups that are not regulated by the Constitution. There are militias that are supported, a well-organized militia, which is typically thought of in old school, since we have a new Supreme Court justice who is an originalist.
Yep.
If you take that into original terms, for instance, which is typically overseen by the governor of the state, the militia would submit themselves still to an authority.
Right.
You're not running around thinking that you are the deciders of what the Constitution says.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hardly even read, and you're going to tell me you know what the Constitution means from the inside out.
Yeah.
That's a whole different topic. But what do we do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Other than this, get ready, America, to love one another.
Yeah.
Through what I love the guy I saw him on Oprah. I think he's a football personality. Said this: uncomfortable conversations with a black man.
Yep. He's got a whole show on it.
Listen, everybody, if you've poured the paste out of the toothpaste, you've said some things that were maybe misinterpreted. Let's say that they were misinterpreted. Let's say you never meant a racist thing that you said, or that was heard. Maybe you never meant a hateful thing that was heard or interpreted as hateful. If you love, and you love America, and you love your neighbor, and you're not a racist, be prepared for uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah,
because the only way that a relationship can be restored is through dialogue.
Right. And people, you're going to need to hold people accountable for the stuff that was said.
Yes.
Because while we can forgive, because forgiveness is a necessity for us to be able to move forward in unity as a country, people aren't going to forget things that were said and done. And so I think you have to be willing to accept responsibility, and you have to be willing to hold people accountable for those actions too.
And if you did it and people are trying to hold you accountable, don't be shocked.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't come at it from an angry perspective that, can't we just move on?
Right.
Yes, we should move on. But there's things I've done in my past that have offended people that once I say I'm sorry, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily over it yet.
Right.
I'm still in a position with some relationships where I'm still asking for the opportunity to let them cuss me out. Right? I'm still in a position in relationships where I'm saying, hey, can I just be in a spot where we have 5 minutes of dialogue so I can begin to express my new heart?
Yeah.
Maybe my heart was messed up. Maybe my attitudes were messed up. Maybe I thought at the moment that this was what was going to be better for America. Or maybe I bought in fully to the Make America Great Again, and I didn't really think about what did that mean? What does Make America Great Again really mean? I see a lot of people now walking around with Keep America Great. Now, that would have been a great damn slogan, right? Keep America great. Okay, maybe it's not that great, but okay, they have a perspective that America's great. We're moving in a good direction. We're getting more rights for people. We're taking care of the needs of the hurting.
Or even Make America Great.
Right.
Like, that would have been a great slogan, but the again part implies that there was a time in this country where it was great for everyone, and we know that is not the case.
Well said. So be ready for those uncomfortable conversations. Maybe not even to defend yourself, but to hear for the first time in your life and say, okay, I can grow from this. And you may still turn around if he runs in 2024. You may end up voting for him again. I don't know. I would hope not. But you may grow in the process, and you may discover why people are so intimately full of joy right now and why they've hurt so much over the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. And we really have to have an openness for understanding.
Yeah.
And, something that we always talk about is seek first to understand before being understood. And I really can't impress upon you enough what that really means.
Yeah.
Because people are always so quick to want to be heard and want everybody to know what they're saying that they don't listen. They're not hearing. And so you really need to just take a step back and say, okay, I don't agree with this person. I definitely am not okay with their behavior or things that were said or done, but I'm going to give them a minute to listen to them, to hear what they are saying, and take a second to process that before you just want to, boom, bounce in with justifications or excuses or your version of an argument, because remember, this is not a debate anymore.
Right.
This doesn't need to continue on as this debate. It's not you versus me. It's not them versus us.
Right.
Because we cannot unite a democracy again with the division of them versus us.
Absolutely.
And so when you talk to people, and especially those that have hurt you, because let me tell you, I've been called some horrific names over the last few months, names that like devastated me because I've not had to deal with that before. I mean, you can, Richard can attest this, like at times where I was in tears and emotionally just out of my wits because just totally shook because I'd not experienced that before from people.
Right.
And so, and that much hate and animosity too, that was not something I've been accustomed to. So, it was really difficult emotionally for me. And so this needs to be a time of healing. You know, we now have a president who has openly said we need to, or future president who's openly said we need to unite the people.
Yeah.
This is not about Republicans versus Democrats versus Trump supporters. This is about one nation coming together as Americans and healing a divided, hurt society that has been long in pain for decades and hundreds of years.
And I'll say this: there's a scripture, there is a quote, we'll say for right now, that is so valuable in this moment, and it is this: how can two walk together unless they're in agreement?
Right.
Now, we don't need to be in agreement fully about policies.
Yeah, of course not.
We don't need to be fully in agreement about legislation. Mm-hmm. We don't need to be fully in agreement about the intricate nuances of our republic and our democracy.
Yeah.
But we need to be in unison and agreement that this can become the greatest country in the world.
Yeah.
If we will begin to love each other. Right?
Yeah.
We've often measured the greatness of our nation by our military force or by our economic prowess, right? But it's time that we step beyond just capitalism and bullets and we begin to really realize that our greatest resource as America is our Americans.
Right.
Is that it's our people.
Yeah.
It's that it starts with the first real sentence of the Constitution, which is we the people. Right.
And how can we ever be a great nation truly if we are oppressing our own people?
So good.
If we have...
Or oppressing people that desperately want to become a part of who we are.
Right. 100%. I mean, America, as we call it, the melting pot, I mean, we accept everybody. That's the point. And people come to our country with the belief that, you know, you can make your dreams happen here. You know, everybody wants the American dream. And, you know, obviously there is a right way to do that, of course, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, but let them have the opportunity to do that.
Good. Yeah.
Value each person in this country, no
Absolutely.
matter their race, their orientation, their color. It doesn't matter, their religious beliefs. Everybody needs to be valued because everybody is valuable.
Yeah,
and
so
everybody can add something to continue to build this nation and for the first time in our history, truly make it great for everyone.
Absolutely. And let's not pretend that we're colorblind.
Yeah.
Right? Let's begin to look at, and I can say this for obviously LGBTQ and all the different elements and aspects of sexual expression, and they do it that way, or you can say it from red, yellow, black, and white. They're all
right.
precious in His sight, right?
Yeah.
You can do it from that perspective. But really, we need to come together as a democracy, as a great republic, as one nation, and say, you know what? We are all beautiful when we come together.
Right.
Right? And we take it just from a person of color standpoint. If we were able to really, truly draw the best out of just black people, not even just people of color in general, but if we were able it's almost a $17 trillion swing in our economy value.
Right.
Just by getting the full capacity. And I believe that's a Harvard study.
Yeah.
That does that. We'll try to put it in the description. The value of our community, not just the spending value, but our creative capacity.
Yeah.
What we're losing in patents because we haven't really
right.
maximized the capacity of our full community. And I'm so proud of people of color right now.
Oh my
for
gosh,
swinging the
right.
vote, for having the capacity to flip whole states. One individual
Yes.
in Georgia, such a huge impact. And I know you've studied quite a bit about her.
I'm very
so-
excited to talk about her. Miss Stacey Abrams, man, this woman is something else. She is a force, and she was actually a representative, House of Representative for Georgia for 10 years, and she was actually the minority leader
Wow.
for 6 of those 10 years. And then she decided to run for governor of Georgia.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, they had the election, and she lost by 55,000 votes.
Wow.
Now, she did not concede.
So close.
Right. She did not concede this because she said that there was a problem.
Okay.
She said 0 mail-in ballots had been received. And she knew for a fact that there was roughly about 80,000 mail-in ballots that had been sent. And that they were expecting to come in. Wow. And when they questioned what happened to them, they were told that no mail-in ballots had been received. And so, of course, she felt that, voter suppression was what cost her this election. The evidence would clearly support that. But you know what? She decided she wasn't just going to roll over, and she wasn't going to just accept this, that she was going to fight for Black people to be able to have their votes heard.
So powerful.
And, right now our president is talking about the greatest fraud in our American history with this election. But the truth is, voter suppression, especially for people of color, has been happening for so long.
Right.
Which is why your voices aren't being heard.
Yeah.
And so she is actually single-handedly responsible for 800,000 new registered voters in Georgia. And so people want to call for a recount in Georgia. There's no way that Georgia turned blue, and a lot of very angry Georgians right now. But the truth is 800,000 new voters voted for the first time this year in this election in the state of Georgia.
So awesome.
Enough to change the vote and turn a state that has been predominantly Republican for decades to a Democratic state.
And really, that's what the Thelionheartinstitute podcast is all about. Whether it's our table talks, whether it's our interview series, or whether it's our mini clips. It's really about how can we as individuals, as groups, as a family, as a nation, as a company, how can we make huge impacts in the world that we live in? And it really starts with the individual. This soul is so beautiful, so powerful, that she has literally turned the tide of an election.
Yeah, she did.
She literally took a hold of her state. She literally took a hold of the world that she lives in.
Yep.
And it's such a powerful testimony. Now, we're going to do probably an extra episode this week talking about voting suppression, talking about the whole Trump election process, because we're not quite to the finish line. But right now for this episode, we're so excited that you would tune in, that you would be a part of this celebration of us coming together as a democracy, as a republic, saying, you know what, there is a bright future. We have great things to come. And we're not quite to the finish line. I hope you'll tune in this week. I think we'll probably drop it on Wednesday or Thursday in conjunction with our interview series.
Right, because they're still counting ballots.
Yeah.
States haven't certified, counties haven't completely certified votes yet, so that we still have a little process to go for that.
So if you haven't subscribed, now would be a great time to subscribe.
For sure.
Because we're going to drop a couple special things this week. We've been invited to a very special event happening on...
hopefully Wednesday.
And so it's going to be an exciting announcement that's happening in our state that will have national ramifications.
Yeah.
But I want to finish off this, if we could. Tiffany, if there is a main thought that you would like to leave our audience about where we stand as a nation, where you think we're headed, and really what we can do as Americans to continue to grow, get past our hurts, and move really towards reconciliation for the benefit of us all, what would really be some valuable thoughts that you could leave us with?
Gosh. I would say embrace love. Because at the end of the day, hate will take you down a path you don't want to go. And we have seen hate divide this country into a very ugly place, and a place that I look around and I don't even recognize sometimes as our home and our country. And,
So good.
you know, I want to encourage you that it's tough, and people are hurt right now, and people are angry, and people are sad that their president lost, while others are full of joy and hope and happiness for the first time seeing a future, a bright future for their family and their children, you know. And I say to them, we are both two wings of the same bird.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay? We don't fly without each other.
It's good.
We can't be a democracy without each other. We can't be a united nation without one another. And no matter their perspective or their views, you know, hold them accountable if they need to be held accountable because it's the right thing to do. But love them through it and forgive them through it and say, you know what? We all want the same thing.
Yeah.
No matter which president we felt would give it to us, the truth is we all want the same thing. We want peace, and we want prosperity, and we want hope, and we want to not fear for people's lives, and we don't want to see people dying on the streets anymore, or being shot when they don't need to die. We don't want to see that anymore. So we need to hold people accountable so we don't have to see that anymore. Yeah. So we can raise each other up from all aspects of life, from all walks of life, no matter your color, no matter where you come from. We are one people. We need to unite each other, and that means taking your differences and putting it aside and saying, you know what, it's not worth continuing down this path that was created for us. We don't have to stand in here anymore. We can make the choice to rise above it. We the people. It's in our Constitution. We the people.
It's good.
So become we the people and show the world that we're unstoppable because we are united and we stand together no matter our differences because we choose to love each other. We choose to forgive each other, and we choose to grow strong in a new America. Let's say bye to the old America. Let's say bye to the racism, the systemic racism, the police brutality, the hatred, the division, the classism. Let's say goodbye to all that and stand united as one people and grow into the greatest America this country has ever known.
So good. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, baby.
And if not, I heard Trump was once interested in buying Greenland. Please feel free. Purchase away. I know Greenland, you probably don't want to hear this, but travel with the great Trump, and we won't miss you. That being said, we love y'all, Americans. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's challenged you and you'll grow. Please do like, share, and comment.
Yeah.
Subscribe and become a part of this community. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we're looking forward to the future.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.